Good morning, General Singh.
Good morning, John.
This is Global Digest Think Tank Group. We talk about regional issue, global issue with various VIP, expertise, government officer, UN officer, professor, all kind of high-level people. We discuss different issues. General Singh, are you currently in army or are you retired already?
No, I am very much retired, and I belong to the artillery, and I retired about a decade plus back. Well, I am in Delhi NCR, located in Delhi NCR, and that is where I'm speaking to you. And right now I'm in a TV studio on in line for the Israel-Palestine war to be coming up on the TV after about half an hour or so. So that is where I am.
Can you briefly experience your role in military and what are critical issue in regional geopolitics or military issue?
Well, as regards the military experience, well, I have been in all the operational areas, I would say, which primarily is about Jammu and Kashmir, in the Ladakh area. I've been there. I have been there in the Northeast. I've been there in the Sikkim area. So it's been a very wide, varied experience during my service years. And yes, I have been interested in geopolitical, geostrategic matters and issues. And I keep myself abreast with that, participate with some of the think tanks like the one which is yours now on some discussions. Yeah, I retired in the rank of Major General, and I, being from the artillery, I was the Additional Director General of the Artillery when I got superannuated last posting.
And did you involve any war?
I would have, my profile was like 1971 war, which was there, which was the Indo-Pak War, and where I was in the Ladakh region, which was the Kargil area also. And so I saw war there, but not specifically the Sino-Indian War, because the Sino-Indian War, the India-China War of 1962, I was still a young man, a young child, I would say. I was a school-going child that time. So that has been that. And now the last one which we had was in the Galwan area, which is 2020, which is Eastern Ladakh. So I was a retired man by then, a long retired soldier.
So what is the main reason of the conflict? Which side has any violation from China's side or from India's side at the Ladakh conflict?
You see, now as an Indian, I would take the Indian stand, but in a dispassionate manner, I'll say that the inherited borders of the British India at independence, which we were all together in Myanmar also,
right?
And so the inheritance of those boundaries and borders is the one which India got as a successor state. And China had already signed the treaties with the British India, or the British that time, the McMahon Line Treaty, and they had accepted the borders. Now, as you would know, that Tibet was never part of China. And Tibet has its own suzerainty and independence. It was also a martial race at one time. It was a very powerful country in its own right, historically, if we go back. But was China, the People's Republic China came to power in 1949. And in 1950, they occupied Tibet. Now, this changed the geopolitical and geostrategic environment in the Indian subcontinent in South Asia. Because hitherto, before that, India and China were never neighbors historically. The neighborhood came because of this Chinese invasion, occupation of Tibet. And after that, they came, and this border dispute claims were there. There were talks in the 50s, but China at the same time clandestinely was building a road in the Aksai Chin. And then they came up with claim line of Ladakh and in McMahon line. And somewhere in 1960, the then Chinese Prime Minister Zhou Enlai came out with the offer which was called the package deal, which was basically Aksai Chin for McMahon line. Now, Aksai Chin, they said, you give us the Aksai Chin portion and keep the McMahon line. McMahon line is what today's Arunachal Pradesh is there. And during those days, it was not the state of Arunachal Pradesh, it was the Northeast Frontier Agency of India. Out of that was born more states, and 6 states were carved out from the state of Assam and NIFA. So you see, there's a shifting stand of China. At one time, you gave a package deal, Aksai Chin for McMahon line, but today you say that Arunachal is part of China. So, the root causes would be many, but this is the root cause, the boundary issue. I feel if the boundary issue is not there, then India and China on world issues have a lot of convergence, and they can synergize the Asian continent into a world part. That's why when they say it's a Asian century, I think China should show more wisdom, and this border claims and all, they should come to a good compromise and not insist it is part of their boundary. You see, China has boundaries, including Myanmar, with 14 countries, the land boundaries. Not to talk about not to talk about the maritime boundaries, which they are again, being hegemonic on it and constructing artificial islands on the reefs and islands right up to Philippines. So 14 countries, they have had border issues and they have been able to resolve because all of them are not the British inheritance. And in India, China case, it is a British inheritance, but we forget Tibet in between today. Now, Tibet cannot be really ignored. When we say it's a changing world order, I would say it is not a changing world order as much as it is an emerging world strategic matrix which is taking place. And it is that matrix which is coming into play. Now, let us take the latest example of this Israel-Palestine issue, the Hamas issue, which now is a state of war there. Why has it come up? Because the Palestinians want to bring to fore on the world map, in the world media, in the world strategic environment, our issue is not dead. There were other strategic scenarios emerging in which US, the UAE, and Israel went into a treaty for tourism, security, trade. So that cooperation emerged. Now, UAE is a very powerful country which is existing in the Middle East. Likewise, the United States was promoting the Saudi Arabia and Israel friendship for them to come together. And the latest what was announced in the G20 summit in September in New Delhi, it was that IMEEC, the India, Middle East, European Economic Corridor. So what has happened? This Palestine issue or these countries which are not part of it have felt omitted. So that is one cause. So, the metrics, when I say, the new metrics keeps emerging. And in this world metrics, I would like to put the countries which really matter or are the major powers are the United States, China, Russia, and India as an emerging power which the world is accepting. Now, these four countries have got very four projections to make, and we have to obey. But when I say these four countries, then India is common with Russia, India is common with US. So no two countries otherwise are common with each other. China, Russia is common, but China, US, and China, India are not in common. US is not common with China and Russia. So India, I would say, is sitting like a fulcrum, which can play a role. And as you know, India doesn't go to war. Aggression is not part of our culture, and neither the part of our strategic thinking. So we have to defend ourselves. Now, in the instant case, the latest which happened in Galwan, which is the eastern Ladakh, the Chinese took advantage, doing a military exercise, having stated to the Indian side that they were testing some new weapon systems, and then they came right up to what they were claiming pre-1960. And they do not want India to develop any infrastructure there. There's the dictating terms. So that is being hegemonic. That is salami slicing.
So right now, is there India army has a post in eastern Ladakh, in Ladakh region, or is there any China army post there?
Well, India is very much there. We have got an accretion in our strength, and thank God for it, it is there. And so has China. In fact, in the area, they have established helipads, they have stationed their troops, they have erected bunkers, and they have put a great force multiplier in their military strength. You see, China realized in this conflict, the Galwan issue, the intrusion, that they have a very long logistics supply line to sustain. And to overcome that, they've improved the road system drastically. They've improved their air landing capability drastically, the medical and logistics, not to talk about their operational capabilities. So China is a powerful nation. It's economically very strong as well. Its comprehensive national power is just about second in the world today, competing with the United States. In the next 25 years, 2050, they hope to be the world #1 economy in GDP. So they are using all these means. And other thing, apart from the border issue, what India and China are not seeing eye to eye is the Chinese border road initiative, which the current president, the Supremo of China, Xi Jinping, has introduced, the border road initiative. And it's the trade route and all these things which are there. And so this one India has not accepted because the POK, the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, which is part of India, the BRI is passing through that, and also the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Now, this irks China, but India has to stand by its sovereignty. You see, our parliament has passed that the entire J&K is part of India, and we must restore it. So this is another major issue. So I personally feel if we are able to overcome this border issue with China, then there is cohesion. And it is then good for the Asian continent. It is good for our South Asia tremendously. Right. There is no need for this military encirclement of the South Asian nations.
So you said both India and China has a station in the Eastern Ladakh region, right? It's how many number of troops from India and how many number of troops from China approximately, if you know that?
Well, I would give you a rough guess on that. I think Indians will be having about 40,000 troops, and the China would be about 1.5 times of that. So that is what it will be.
I see.
But they see it is that now in this area, it is not only deploying your troops there, it carries a lot of other connotations. And the most important connotation is the logistics element, the cost to maintain these troops. High altitude area, large number of troops, very, very dynamic military equipment today, force multipliers, they require special maintenance, special lubricants, so their maintenance cost is very high. They require air conditioning in many cases. So that is very important. You need special lubricants in high altitude area to keep the machines going. And then the maintenance and sustenance of your manpower is health considerations of the high altitude hazards. The medical part of it has to be taken care. And even China would do that. This will be common. But whichever nation can do it better will give an edge in the morale of the fighting force that is your soldier, the man behind the machine.
Right. So, General Singh, the current conflict in East Ladakh area is, I mean, ancient time Tibet government, Tibet kingdom, usually, I mean, how's the border issue between India, Hindustan, and Tibet kingdom in ancient time? They have any conflict, or how Tibet government view on this CPP government on this Ladakh conflict issue, border issue? I want to know Tibet position in Ladakh because Tibet is different kingdom since ancient time. So is there any Tibet view on this Ladakh? They also claim, or they did not claim, or you don't have any problem between Hindustan and Tibet kingdom since ancient time? Is there any dispute between Tibet and India?
You see, right now, since Tibetans are in India, His Holiness Dalai Lama is a very respected and exalted, I would put the word in inverted apostrophe, guest in India. He is very much revered in India also for his religious, spiritual standing and for the Tibetan cause. Tibetan cause gets related with human rights. Now, Tibetan issue, Tibet had its own boundaries. And it has not come to fore that any boundary differences were there. But historically, yes. Tibet also in certain areas of Ladakh, certain areas of Arunachal, were there. They had a Buddhist monastery, Tawang. The Dalai Lama, I think the 5th or the 3rd Dalai Lama was born there in Tawang. But that is not related to boundary issue. This is a cultural issue. You see, likewise, India has the Mansarovar Lake and the Mount Kailash, which is very, very holy place for the Indian community, Bharat, Hindustan, India. So the cultural aspect, I think the present world metrics of the world environment has got into more of the military might and forgotten the cultural roots. You take Myanmar, it's a Buddhist nation.
Right.
And Buddhism originated from India, and it gave us concept of non-violence, peaceful living. We have forgotten that. The world has forgotten that. China also has a reasonable amount of Buddhism there, though it's a Taoist religion and now out there. So what I'm saying is, the world has to get back to its basics. The world is at war today, and we have to. You and I, or the think tanks, cannot change. We can only contribute to the powers that matter. You see, the League of Nations after First World War and the United Nations after Second World War have not been able to bring that sort of peace. They've not been able to manage to control bloodshed.
Right. So about that Manmohan line, that Manmohan line was also agreed between China and Myanmar. So since then, we have no problem. Actually, that Manmohan line was actually, it is border with Tibet and Yunnan. You know, Tibet people, actually that time, I guess, during British colony, Tibet government agreed with Burmese about Manmohan line. Also in later CPP government, they also agree. So Burmese and China has no problem till now. So that is between Tibet government and CPP government, both agree, in different time with the Burmese government. But in case of China, India, Manmohan line was, as you mentioned, you don't have much problem with Tibet government. You don't have issue with Tibet people since ancient time. Only CPP government and Indian government has raising the issue as conflict in related to Manmohan line, right?
It's a good point, and it is a little subjective also, I would say. When China dealt with its border issues with other countries, it has used the influence of its large power, the might, and the acceptability has been there. Now, in India, China says that we were a signatory along with Tibet and the British, but we were a weak nation. So we signed, and the acceptability of that boundary is not there, but they are signatories to it. And the Indian interpretation is being disputed by them. This becomes a major bone of contention. And also, China has to realize that they have created a new sense of history. They've fallen back on historical periods. We were this and we were there. Was it really that large? China, at one time, its boundaries ended at the Great Wall of China. The Mongolians had also invaded China. The Manchu Empire was not purely the Han Dynasty. So you see, if we have to go in the historical sense of history, then the fallout of that is, okay, where is this history placed in China's present perspective? So I think the way out is that the nations do give and take and resolve the issues.
Right. So as you mentioned, Tibet right now they are no position for government. They don't have power since CPP took the whole Tibet territory. So in case of Tibet become power and they control their territory as a country, maybe it will be less conflict between India and a new Tibet government with the border conflict, border issue. How do you think Tibet will become prosperous country in the future, or how did you see Tibet position? Because Yunnan province also ancient time they are separate kingdom. Tibet is different kingdom. but now CPP control all this territory and they lost their kingdom and territory. After CPP control, India, China border issue was more, problematic, and conflict and disagreement are increasing. Also, after CPP government, South China Sea issue also, disagreement are increasing and they make more conflict after CPP government. So how do you see Tibet government future? Is there potential, or how they can gain their possession back?
I think the possession back for Tibet is a long, long time to come about. The world has to stand behind Tibetans and the Tibetan cause. And it can only be done in a peaceful, harmonious manner, because no military angle gets into Tibet to recover Tibet for Tibetans. The military angle today is out of question. What can come about for Tibet to regain its independence is a people's uprising. And that, again, a large country, Tibet, it involves a major effort. Today, there has been Hanization of Tibet. Chinese are coming to Tibet, change their culture. The infrastructure they developed, the Chinese PLA is almost everywhere with that. So it is a very much of a $1 million question. And I think Dalai Lama also says that he's not talking of Tibet's independence at the moment. So I think at this moment, that will be the best thing we can think about Tibet. It's only later, if Tibet comes up, if what their sense of history and their borders, well, they'll have to recover their borders from the China side, whatever are there.
Of course, it may not easy way to make independent Tibet, and it is a huge, sacrifice will be required, and absolutely not easy one. But at least somehow they should have their own, self-determination, their own autonomous, control or partial control or something like that. So at least Tibet can have their own self-determination. Even the border issue, Tibet has something to say, not just CPP government should say something as well.
Yeah.
They should also
let me tell you,
involved in the solving the crisis, because CPP government, after power of CPP government, a lot of conflict with the border in India, South China Sea, such things are not good under CPP government. So Tibet should say something. They should have, some kind of autonomous power by Tibetan people.
See, no doubt it is referred to as Tibet Autonomous Region, to which China is very chary the use of this word. For Tibet to now think of itself as a country and then, spell out the issues which you are saying, perhaps a little premature. Yes, what Tibet can claim right now is that when India was partitioned, the borders which were inherited that time, and what was its borders with China, they should be respected. And that will give a peaceful environment. That's the way I look at it.
Right. Thank you very much, General Singh. We can keep continue discussion in the future about regional and neighboring country and military issues.
Yeah, and the points put forth by you will add to my little repertoire of knowledge. You have put very good questions, and I deeply appreciate that.
See you next time,
So-
General Singh. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, and look forward